Hello divas and dudes, welcome to Powerhouse Bakery. Today I want to show you something really fun. So often we are busy during the week and we don't have time to cook. And I've often talked about the value of cooking ahead of time and doing some meal prep on your own. And oftentimes I'll hear people get bored with the same old, same old. So what I want to show you today is how to use turkey in 3 different ways. So we're going to keep it simple by mixing the turkey with general spices, and then we're going to divide it out and mix them a little differently, and it's not going to take any more time, but we're still going to get 3 different very fun recipes. You ready? Let's get going. So in order to start with my easy build of that ground turkey, I'm going to start with a few good crunchy vegetables. You know me, I always talk about getting more veggies every step of the way. So if you can add more veggies to your meats, that's going to really add not only to your soluble fiber, but your insoluble. And it just adds more texture. I always like to teach about the value of the eyes eat first, and then if our palate has lots of intriguing textures and flavors, we're definitely going to find the food to be more exciting. So this particular base recipe is going to have some celery. It's going to have some scallions. I love scallions because they're in the onion family, but they're also pretty easy to tolerate. So even people that say, oh, I don't like onions, a little bit of scallion, they actually will be very happy to enjoy. So I'm going to have a little bit of green onions and the celery. And notice that I'm getting the cut of the vegetables pretty small. So I would call this a fine dice. It's not a mince, but it is a fine dice. You don't want it to be too big because one of the dishes that I'm going to show you is a meatball. And so we want to make sure that all the little veggies stay well nestled into our meatball. So I call this a fine dice, and we've got 2 beautiful colors, a light green and a dark green. And then I also have some beautiful colored peppers. So this is going to be part of our add-ins, but the base recipe, I'm just going to use these, and then I'm going to mix it up a little by adding these peppers to a later stage. The other base ingredients to my meatloaf are going to always be some salt and pepper, and I've got some of my famous spice blend. So you can always do your own spice blend. That's something I really love to teach about. And what I did in this particular blend is I added some toasted garlic, I added some dehydrated shallots, and then some dill, and a little bit of oregano and thyme, and a little bit of paprika. So look at that beautiful color I've got going on. So in my base recipe, I'm always going to do salt and pepper. I want a little kick of some good flavors, some base flavors that are not going to be too outstanding because I want to add other ones later. And I'm always going to add in some fresh herbs. So thanks to our wonderful Judy, she has given me some beautiful fresh herbs. So I've got some oregano that I'm going to just do a rough chop in. These leaves are already beautiful. They're not very big and they're very soft. So you don't have to do too fine of a chop. I could probably even throw them in whole. But I wanted you to really understand the beauty of having fresh herbs as well as dried, and some fresh crunchy. It just adds so much interest and intrigue to any recipe. You could use fresh thyme, you could use rosemary, and believe me, you could even use mint. You know me, I've been using mint in a lot of recipes that people might not expect, but that's what's fun, the unexpected. With rosemary, we definitely can cook with it, but it can be pretty tough. So I'm going to just peel off the very delicate needles, and then I am going to do a fine chop on that one. So with the oregano and even sometimes the thyme, you wouldn't need to do much chopping at all. But I am going to go ahead and chop that rosemary. And there's my beautiful oregano. I'm just going to keep it pretty rough. And we could even do more than that, but that's giving me a good start. So I would call that a teaspoon of rosemary. I would call this about 2 teaspoons of oregano. But believe me, you could go more than that if you wanted. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and blend my base meat. So my absolute favorite is this Jenny O. It's the super lean ground turkey. And this is a 3-pound chub, which is going to be plenty for this recipe. And so what I'm going to do is add it into my bowl. And you probably heard me discuss this before, but you can absolutely use gloves if you're more comfortable with that. For me, I like to just use bare hands as long as I'm very clean and no long fingernails at all, especially when you're dealing with raw meat. So the first thing we're going to do is add in our salt and pepper. And we want to mix as we go. So I'm going to go with the dry ingredients first and mix those in well before I go to the next. And I'll show you about how much this is. In my 3 pounds of ground turkey, I did 2 teaspoons of salt and 1 teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. And I'm going to use 4 teaspoons of my spice blend. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So I don't have salt in that spice blend. I only do the salt separate so I can make sure I really track how much salt I'm using. That way I know for sure that I'm not over salting. So now I'm going to mix those spices in. Again, using my hand, I can really make sure I get it folded in beautifully. And now, when we want to have a meatloaf that is gluten-free, we can't add breadcrumbs or cracker crumbs, which is something that you might have done in the past. But we do need to have something that's going to hold the moisture of the meat. We want to keep it really tender, and to do that, we've got to make sure we add in a little bit of oils, and then of course a little bit of the grain to absorb those oils. So that's a pretty good blend so far. That's going to be just with my salt and my herbs. And now I'm going to add in my dries. So here's 1 cup of oats. Sprinkle those around. 1 cup of oats. And I'm going to start to add in my eggs. So I'm going to break these and do a quick stir. Because again, we want to pre-mix everything we can. I'm going to drop these in and give them just a quick stir. And if I was going to use a higher fat turkey, that would be a good option. But I actually like to keep it really lean. So if you wanted to add more moisture, you could certainly add in a little olive oil. If I'm going to make burgers, I might do that, especially if I'm going to grill them. I could also add all of my herbs right to the egg mixture. That's a great way to add it in. This time I just mixed it with my hands, but you absolutely could add in your dry ingredients to this egg, and that would help to distribute it really well. So there goes my 2 eggs, and I'm ready to stir. So I'm going to add a good blend in here. I've got 1 more dry ingredient that I'm going to mix in, which is my mighty seeds. So at Powerhouse Bakery, we always want to add in, wherever we can, some extra minerals and extra protein and healthy fats. And these mighty seeds will also be a really powerful option for binding it and also keeping it moist. If you've ever worked with chia seeds, you know that they kind of swell up and they hold the moisture, which is really good because then it does make the food extra tender and moist. So that's what we love. All right, so here is my base ingredient, and it's going to be a beautiful meatloaf. Even as it is right now, I could put it into my container and dress the top of it, and it would be good to go. But because we really want to do multiple meals all at once, I'm going to show you how to break them apart. Now we'll have at least 3, maybe even 4 different meals out of this base ingredient. So I'm going to bring up another container, and we're going to divide out our meats. So I'm going to get a good hunk of it over here, and here's my next one, and we'll leave this one in here. We'll take a little bit more in this one. So I've got 3 different ways that I'm going to mix up my meat. The first one, I'll go ahead and treat just like the base, and then I'm going to add a topping to it. So I can use my scooper, and I'm just going to make balls. So simple meatballs, and I'm just going to put them on the baking sheet here. Get them nice and round, and they'll hold their sauce so beautifully. This is just like an ice cream scooper. It'll work out beautifully. You could use your hands too. You can just make neat little balls. You can even kind of drag these through some rice, and porcupine meatballs is what I used to call them when I was a kid. So great way to make some meatballs. And then as we go into the cooking stage, we're going to top it with some sauce. So I'll show you that in just a quick second. Now with the rest of the meat, I'm going to add 1 more layer of flavor. So this is just some marinara sauce that I added some goat cheese to. This is going to be so great. So I'm going to add this to my meat, and it's just going to add a lot more moisture to it. So this is going to be my meatloaf. And I'm going to be able to put it into my pan, and it comes out looking a lot like this. So it's already mixed together, and I'll be able to put a topping on it. So once I get it all into the pan, I'm going to use my beautiful soft and spicy dipping and put a little drizzle all the way across, and it's ready for the oven. So it's going to look just like my little tray there. That's one of the dishes that we serve all the time, and it's got that wonderful goat cheese added in as a nice different variety. Super fun to do. Now I'm going to show you one more. Here's the meat that I pulled aside, and I'm going to start adding in some different veggies. So now I'm adding in those chopped peppers, and I'm going to add a little bit more sweet potato spice. So now we're going into the family of something a little more Tex-Mex. This has got some chipotle. It's got all kinds of flavors in it with oregano and chili powder and a little bit more garlic. So I've mixed those together. And one more thing I'm going to add in is this beautiful that green sauce. A little bit of that. And here we go. And here comes our beautiful veggies. So the green onions and the celery, and I'm going to mix that all together. Now I can put this into a skillet and saute it all loose, and it would make a fantastic street taco, or I could turn this into a burger. And that's kind of what I'm going to do on this one. It'll be wonderful because it's got all those beautiful colors that are popping through. I've got all the good veggies. Really cool. So here I'm going to turn them into 3-ounce patties. And I love how you can see all the beautiful colors coming through with that patty. This is going to go on my grill, and I'm going to cook them up and serve them with a kale salad. And typically, you know, if we talk about good portion size of meats, we say about a fist size or a palm size, and that's pretty close. It's going to cook down a little bit, but the nice thing about turkey is it doesn't have a lot of fat, so it's really not going to shrink too much. So these are beautiful patties that are going to go right onto my cast iron skillet, and then I finish them off in the oven. So the cast iron skillet is going to be just enough to brown them and make them really pretty on the outside, and then we put them in the oven to finish that cooking process. So there we go. All right, now this little bit of extra I'm going to add to my meatloaf combination, so I can show you how we're going to add that to the full mix. So let's add in some more of the veggies. I think I forgot that one on the last batch, so we want to add that in. The rosemary and the oregano, it's just gorgeous. So again, this one's going to be either a meatloaf, or we could do those meatballs. And what I did was added the goat cheese and a little bit more of that yummy marinara sauce. Okay, so there you have it. And I'm going to transfer it to this container, and we are going to do a quick pan fry. So in the world of TV magic, I'm going to give you a minute to heat up my skillet, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, look at this. I just did a quick little grill of our beautiful burgers. So the trick is you want to heat up your cast iron to pretty hot. You don't have to put anything in it. Don't feel like you have to add oil. Just get it nice and hot, which is all I did. And then I dropped them in, and you should hear it sizzle. And so those of you that know that when I did some shows on SA Live and Great Day SA, the producers would always say, make sure you can make it sizzle. Then we know we get some good interest and intrigue. So once you place them into your skillet, don't move them, just let them cook. That way you get this beautiful grill mark. And it's so pretty on both sides. So now we've got burgers that we can dress in lots of different ways. So during the week, you'll have so much fun being able to reinvent this meat. And remember, we could do it as a meat loaf. We could do it as these beautiful burgers. And I've got one more way to show you how it's done. Remember, we did the meat without all the colors in it. We just kept them a little bit more simple. And this is gorgeous meatballs. Oh, we can serve this so many ways. So one of my favorite ways to do this is to add it to the sofrito, which we've done before. And that's just cooked down tomatoes. It's got all kinds of wonderful flavors like eggplant and garlic These are so beautiful. I love it. And when you serve these differently, you just have so many options. So one way to do it would be to top it with some more of the soft and spicy dipping, which you know I sell at Powerhouse Bakery, and it's just kind of a very special barbecue sauce. Another way we can do it is top it with some of this beautiful salsa. So I have got a green salsa, and even though I did a little bit of the soft and spicy dipping, it's so beautiful just to drizzle it over. I could serve it with rice, I could serve it with just my sweet potato fries or these beautiful roasted potatoes. Another fun way to do it is to add some extra pasta sauce. And so here I'm using my sofrito, but check this out, it gives it a whole different feel when you just top it with a different sauce. So I could use a gluten-free noodle. I could absolutely add rice. One of my favorites is to use the penne noodle. So it's a great way just to add good texture and flavor. You could top it with some cheese, but look at all these beautiful ways to do it. Burgers, and of course the meatballs, and not to mention the meatloaf. So get creative. And then don't forget you could freeze these also. So individually you could put them in a plastic container or just plastic wrap and freeze them and take out a couple at a time, and you've got dinner in minutes. Last but not least, don't forget to add some of your beautiful herbs and seeds. You could sprinkle them all off onto the finish, whether it's on your potatoes or even on your meat. So get creative, because it's really fun to get that extra little scent of coriander and even rosemary and some dill. So have fun with this, and we'll look forward to seeing some of your great ideas. You can send to me and we'll share some recipes. Thanks so much for joining me.